Hi friends, welcome to the 17th episode of Walking with a Himalayan Master. We are reading the 5th chapter, which is Master of Self. Traveling to the West. The decades of training accomplished, Swamiji could hardly wait to share his wisdom. His master sent him to the West. Western science, with all its technological progress, cannot see beyond the material level. How curious that psychiatrists and neurologists fervently denounce the reality of mind as a non-dual entity, while actively using it in their denunciations. Swamiji, with his Himalayan perspective, entered this world where consciousness was a marginal stranger and only matter mattered. I marvel that he could have come to the West. He was such a sophisticated hitchhiker that adequate traveling supplies were hardly his concern. He told me that his master sent him off with only a few dollars in his pocket. Wherever he immigrated, whether in Japan, Europe, or America, a synchronicity emerged from meeting the right people at the proper moment. Each encounter in its way advanced his mission and came in handy later. As he spoke, I was reminded that I also wanted to be aware of opportunities as they arose for my life. Once an admonition had come to me in meditation, make yourself aware of what is already there. I now remind myself of it daily. When members of the medical and scientific community in the twin cities of St. Paul and Minneapolis became interested in Swamiji's awesome powers, Dr. Daniel Ferguson suggested to Dr. Elmer Green at the Menninger Foundation that Swami Rama would be an apt subject for the foundation's projects. In 1964, Elmer and Alice Green had co-founded a research program called Biological Feedback for Psychologic Self-Regulation. As the years continued, they founded the Menninger Voluntary Controls Program for Biofeedback Research, Education, and Clinical Treatment. It was within the auspices of this program that Swami Rama was invited to visit Topeka, Kansas over Easter weekend, March 28-30, 1970. In accepting Dr. Green's invitation to the Menninger Foundation, Swamiji became both the subject of study as well as a faculty member. Demonstrating and lecturing, consulting and training others, the director of the Biofeedback Research Program offered the scientific ambience for him to demonstrate his embodied knowledge. An American window of opportunity opened for this master of the science of life to scientifically carry out his spiritual traditions, concerns for the personal, social, and therapeutic well-being of humanity. Swamiji told me that he had had high hopes for this project, given the political climate of detente and the rigid interpretations, religious and scientific, regarding the essence and limits of human nature. He had presented a strong contrast, a uniquely astounding version of human possibilities for modern living. Life experiments in body, mind, and spirit. Through the spring and autumn of 1970, Swamiji conducted an unusual series of experiments related to the range of human consciousness at Menninger. He performed physical and mental feats that had never been done anywhere before. He challenged the prevalent truism in most quarters of medical science that human consciousness, the mind, is restricted in its voluntary control over bodily organs and systems. For some neurologists, the mind doesn't exist, the physical brain alone accounts for it all. To appreciate the value of his unprecedented contribution, one has to remember that Swami Rama brought a forgotten vision of human nature so free and abundant in its possibilities that it couldn't fit into the conventional mold upheld by the scientific community. Here was a man who was on profoundly intimate terms with his corporeal existence. Admittedly, the majority of psychological activities, from the rate of cell repair to the acceleration or slowing of the heart, exceeds the pale of rational commands. Our human autonomic nervous system, which directs the internal activities of the body, is not under the immediate sway of ordinary thinking. People do not walk around, for example, controlling their heartbeats. These necessary everyday functions, digestion, heartbeat, cell repair, fall under the domain of the unconscious portion of the mind. consequently controlling one's heartbeat at will, deliberately slowing down the aging process, or remaining aware of one's environment while asleep seem far-fetched. Described only in fairy tales or science fiction, Swamiji was quite cognizant of the usual limitations on these anatomical functions. But he also wanted to show the scientific world that their boundaries were hardly the last word. When I heard of Swamiji's demonstrations at the Menninger Foundation, I was astounded. I had read many mythologies of heroes and wizards, stories of saints and shamans, even amazing episodes of everyday people who, under the pressure of a crisis, had far exceeded their normal physical abilities. Over the years, I had met individuals who could demonstrate genuine psychic abilities but without much consistency in performance. Their explanations of their gifts often sounded more like science fiction than a coherent theory based on human experience. While I taught at Loyola University, I had spoken to some faculty psychiatrists about my favorite ancient tales of superhuman endeavors as well as similar contemporary reports. They had regarded them as highly imaginative folklore at best and serious mental aberrations needing medical treatment at worst. My theological conferers with a large dose of skepticism had attributed any remarkable stories about saints' miracles to the intervention of the Christian God and had been quick to point out that saints never took credit themselves for their successes. Consequently, in meeting Swami Rama, I restrained my curiosity about the potential of consciousness by a conditioned skeptical attitude secure within the rational assessment provided by the scientific community. In short order, he routed all those skeptical limits and provoked new questions in my mind. Over the years, Swamiji actualized my wildest dreams. He showed me in theory and practice how the miracles attributed to Christian saints and others are less external interventions by a divine force than an innate power belonging to the essence of being human. Miracles were not hit and miss but had a definite logic to their manifestation. He explained how the mind, being both a transmitter and receiver, can increase its breadth of awareness to become cognizant of the energy formations of things in this world that are not immediately within the perception of the physical senses. The reason that the senses can operate, he taught, is due to the presence of the human spirit, one's unlimited consciousness. The senses are simply corporeal instruments for consciousness to perceive things on that everyday tangible plane of existence, but the ambience of the spirit is not curtailed by the channels of the senses. Meditation opens the latent power of one's consciousness to go beyond body and mind. He would tirelessly remind his students when this expansion takes place, he elaborated, then the powers to interact with material energy awakens. Thank you very much, friends. That was the 17th episode. Thank you for being with me. Have a great day. Bye bye.